Hi, thanks for coming to the channel. So with this one, I hope people will think a little bit about the two differing concepts that I'm going to talk about because I think more often than not they get conflated and I think they're different things. And I'm going to try to argue why I think they're different things. Um, so often we hear the sort of expression or the mandate, to respect all opinions. Um, And then there is the notion of free speech, which, if you believe in free speech, it follows that you need to respect the right of people to have an opinion. But this is where the conflation happens, because I think that you can respect someone's right to have an opinion, but not respect the opinion itself. And I think people get confused. They think that respecting someone's right to have an opinion means you have to respect the opinion even if you disagree with it. I take a different view. I say I respect this person's right to have the opinion, but I might not necessarily respect that opinion. And it's not a contradiction. Um, because, I think there's this idea that if you don't respect an opinion, it's kind of getting out of the barometers of civility or politeness, but it's more a case of conviction. I mean, I just think it's insincere and unrealistic to say respect all opinions. How can you respect all opinions if someone comes out with an opinion that is simply in polar opposition to your values and your conviction on something? Now, this is not a case of I'm always right. I think people should be open-minded enough to question themselves, to question their own positions, and to accept that they could be wrong sometimes. I try to, but I'm not going to lie. There are issues I'm pretty stubborn about, because my views on those issues haven't been reached just on a whim. They've been reached over lots of soul searching, lots of lengthy thought process. So I'll give a few examples just to show what I'm talking about here. If someone says all cultures are equal, we need to respect all cultures, that's not an opinion I respect, because I do not consider a culture that stones a woman to death because she's been the victim of rape and therefore she's accused of adultery, i.e., what the Taliban would do to women, that is not equal to a society that sees that as barbaric and murder. It's just not. Um, I do not respect the opinion that so called honor crimes are just part of culture. Therefore, we have to respect it. No, I don't respect it. I think it's an appalling attack on human rights. Um, I don't respect the argument, and this is a domestic issue that I feel very strongly about. I don't respect the argument that people who hurt society, i.e., criminals, should somehow not be accountable for their actions. That punishment, judicial punishment, is something that is just punitive. I don't respect that because I really, really see a philosophy from the opposition to that, which is very pro leniency. And I don't respect it because I've been in a situation where my family was driven from our homes when I was 16. I've never forgotten that, and I've never forgotten the anxiety and mental anguish that it caused. So when someone says, "Oh, we need to abolish prisons they don't help anything," or "We need to just focus on helping the criminals," it's not something I respect. I just don't respect it. Um, no, that's different. If I was to turn around and say you're not allowed to have that opinion, that would be different because I'd be totalitarian. I'd be taking away the right to view. But I think it is okay to say, well, I support your right to have that opinion, but I think you're dead wrong, and I don't respect it. As an example. Um, I think sometimes we could get a little bit too wrapped up on the idea of civility. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people should just yell in each other's faces. And clearly, it's not good to always get very angry and think, oh, you're wrong and I'm right. And obviously, if someone's doing that all the time, then they will just come across as arrogant and pompous, maybe even bullying. Um, so it's very important to have self control. But I just think that the idea of respect all opinions is a silly notion because it isn't realistic and I think it's insincere. It's just insincere. I mean, if you hear something that you just don't agree with and it maybe makes you angry, the idea of respecting it is just silly. I think you can say, well, I respect the person's right to have that opinion, but it's a different thing. Respecting the right to have an opinion versus respecting the opinion itself. They're clearly a different thing. Um, Obviously, like I say, people reach reviews on issues for different reasons. So, for example, on that issue of crime, a victim of serious crime might have a very different outlook from a social worker who's working with young offenders because it's their experience, it's what they're seeing. Um, Someone who's grown up in communist China, who has been fed the nationalistic propaganda of Xi Jinping's regime, is going to have a very different outlook from, say, human rights activists protesting on behalf of Falun Gong or Tibetans or Uyghurs, because again, they reach their views for different reasons. Um, but that doesn't mean it's in equilibrium. This idea all opinions are equal. Um, I would say that all people's right to have an opinion is equal, but that's not the same again as saying all opinions are equal or all positions are equally valid. That's just complete tosh. It's almost laughable. I mean, if you get someone who, let's say you have a terrorist attack, I'm using an extreme example here. You get a terrorist attack and a dozen people are killed, many others injured. Person A says that's terrible, that's an atrocity, it's an evil act. And person B says, no, I think it's justified, that's okay. Who is going to argue those are both equally valid positions? It's madness. If the terrorist attack was targeted at civilians, it's just a mad position that to say that both positions are equally valid. Clearly, one is an extreme opinion that the vast majority of people wouldn't endorse. Um, Actually, in terms of it being valid as an opinion, or rather the right to free speech, it would depend if the person saying that is part of a terrorist cell. Naturally, they're going to defend the attack. Um, but anyway, just thought I'd put it out there. Sometimes I get very strong views on certain matters, and I am aware that I might come across as a bit dogmatic, a bit stubborn. On other issues, I'm a lot more muted and I am open to listening to other points of view. But on certain issues, human rights, crime, those two particularly, I am frankly am uncompromising because those are issues I have developed over years and I've really, really given a huge amount of thought to them. And for me, those are just two subjects I feel very strongly about, i.e., human rights are non-negotiable, just non-negotiable, and crime has to have consequences. I believe in judicial punishment. Some people don't. Um, but that's something to think about. So we respect the right to have an opinion. That's liberty. That's democracy. But saying that all opinions are equally valid, I suppose you could say, well, in the eyes of the person making the opinion is valid. Okay. But, and I suppose then you get into a cultural issue. Well, say you get someone from a particular culture where it is the norm, it's valid for them. So I'll rephrase that. All opinions are not equally acceptable, or all opinions are not equally okay. This idea that we have an equilibrium and it's just, oh, disrespect all. Or let me rephrase it this way, right? All opinions are equally worthy of respect. No, they're not. They're just not. Now, someone making an obnoxious opinion might say that it is worthy of respect, but I don't think it is. And it's more about personal approach to it rather than anything being dictated. So, as an individual, I'm not going to pretend that I respect certain opinions when I really, really don't. I'll be civil enough to, I won't yell in someone's face, but I'm not going to feign politeness. I'm not going to say, "Oh, right, that's your opinion. Oh, fair enough." I'm going to say, "No, I think you're wrong," and I might get it might get testy depending on the angle that they take with it. That's just reality. Let me know your thoughts.